Hey there, subs and visitors. In this video I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff in relation to this year. I'm going to start by talking about some of the things that Jason of Archaics mentioned in his live video a couple of days ago when he was talking about the 4 presidents who have been unalived. He mentioned Abraham Lincoln, James A. Garfield, William McKinley and John F. Kennedy. So the no-brainer with William McKinley, John F. Kennedy, and this year is 1901, 1963, and 2025. There's 124 years there, and the midpoint is 1963, so 62 years either side of 1963, where we had the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And in 1865, Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. There's 160 years between 1865 and 2025, and the midpoint is 1945. And that relates to Roosevelt and his odd ailments and his strange death, in which evidence indicates that he did not die of natural causes but was poisoned. About 8 months ago, I posted a video in relation to the 2024 US presidential elections, and when I looked into James A. Garfield, I was convinced that Trump was going to win the election. So in relation to 1881 and James A. Garfield, I'm looking at the Chinese zodiac. And so there's a 5-element theory, and it's a philosophy used to describe the relationship and interdependence between all things, that all elements are interconnected and that there is no hierarchy. And the theory forms the basis of not only Chinese zodiac, but of other Eastern traditions like Feng Shui and holistic medicine, acupuncture, divination, such as the I Ching and martial arts. So every 2 years the elements change, and each cycle the animal changes. So last year was the wood dragon, this year is the wood snake, and so the elements follow a cycle every 2 years. So metal would be the birth year ending in 0 or 1, water would be the birth year ending in 2 or 3, wood 4 or 5, fire 6 or 7, and earth would be 8 or 9. So one easy way to remember it is just basically every 2 years you go from metal to water to wood to fire to earth. Now 1881 was the metal snake. It was still a snake year. So 1881 is the year of the snake, and in 1953 we had another snake year. Okay, so this is the cycle that has repeated. We have this year, another snake year. So 1953 was the water snake, this year is the wood snake, and there's 144 years between 1881 and 2025. So that is really interesting stuff right there. You know, those connections between these past presidents and this year, and also the fact that Trump has already had to, well, you know, what we've been shown, whether or not it's real or not, that he's had 2 attempts. And so on the 13th of July was the first one, okay, and then on the 15th of September was the second one. And the only other president that has had 2 attempts and survived is Gerald Ford. And so I did a community post about 3 months ago where I spoke about that. And so based on the time frame in between the first event on July 13 and the second event on 15th of September, being 64 days in between, I added another 64 days to the 15th of September and came to the 18th of November. And nothing happened to Trump on that day. But that's the day that the first reported sightings of the Jersey drones appeared. So we had all this craziness going on from the 18th of November with these drones. So from the 18th of November, if you add yet another 64 days, that brings us out to the 21st of January, which is the United States presidential inauguration date. And from the 13th of July 2024, where the earshot event happened, to the 21st of January inauguration date, it's exactly 192 days. So yeah, it's a 192 gematria value for leave the world behind. If we go from 8th of April 2024, the eclipse in America, to the 13th of July, the earshot day, it's 96 days. You add another 96 days, brings us to 17th of October. On that day, Elon Musk speaks as part of a campaign in Town Hall in support of Republican presidential nominee, former President Donald Trump. This is crazy. Anyway, so you add another 96 days, and that brings us to 21st of January. So Trump and Elon, they're connected, and there's definitely a connection between them in this election. And 21st of January, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe nothing, but I'm just throwing out all these things I'm finding, and see what comes of it. Another snake year was 2001, and we all know what happened in 2001, which was just shattered the world. And it was also the first total eclipse of the 21st century on 21st of June 2001. And there was a group called Corona in 1993, and they released a song called The Rhythm of the Night. And on their album cover there, they have a picture of the Twin Towers standing in the city, which then reminded me of the 1993 terrorist attack carried out on February 26, when a van bomb detonated below the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
The World Trade Center, and investigators are looking into the possibility, and it is only a possibility, that it was a bomb. Take a look at the scene now. It's early evening here in New York City. Between the two buildings with the lights on are the 110-story towers which dominate the skyline of Lower Manhattan. All the power is off.
So 1993, such simpler times, even the way the reporter so carefully suggests that it's just a possibility that it could be a bomb. And we saw the storm of the century, also known as the 93 superstorm or the no-name storm, which was a cyclonic storm or nor'easter that formed over the Gulf of Mexico on March 12th, 1993. And if we add another 8 years to 1993, and we land back in 2001, the sun unleashed the biggest solar flare event ever recorded, as observed by the SOHO satellite. And the explosion from the active region near the sun's northwest limb hurled a coronal mass ejection into space at a whopping speed of roughly 7.2 million kilometers per hour. And we're told that luckily the flare was not aimed directly towards Earth. And if you add, this is all in relation to like blackouts, so 2001 plus 8, 2009, where there was a movie called The Blackout. I have not seen this movie, didn't even know it existed. And then also that year in 2009 was an event I experienced, which was the Sydney, Australia, September 23rd, 2009 red dust storm, which turned the sky red and eventually blacked out the sun. I woke up to a kitchen that was completely red. It reminded me of Seinfeld when Kramer has the chicken shop or whatever, and his whole apartment turns red and he switches apartments with Jerry. And anyway, so yeah, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I just grabbed my camera and I recorded it. I have it on my old channel. I might actually pop that video in the description box so you can watch it, because it was really mind-blowing. My camera was unfortunately running out of battery at the time, but you'll see it progress from red into black, and it blacked out the sun. And then, so 2009 plus 8 years brings us to 2017, where the sun darkened on August 21st of 2017, where a total solar eclipse was visible from the United States. Also, remember the perfect isometric measure of days between August 21st, 2017 to December 14, 2020, right, which is when Biden took, anyway, you know the story. So it was 1,211 days in between that event and 14th of December 2020, and then we add another 1,211 days, and it brought us out to the April 8th eclipse. So I see the connection there also. And after a little sleep in this morning, realised I'd missed the latest live by KX in relation to the Orbs, and I listened to that while I was out driving today, and came home and wanted to have a little look myself what I could find online in relation to California fires and the Orbs and everything. And I checked out that Casper site channel. I have seen some of his stuff before, And there was the one video with the black object, and, he was saying it kind of looks like a kite, and I was agreeing with him at the time, but it is large, and I don't think it's a kite. After seeing some of the videos I saw today, that appeared to be fireballs going through the sky. As much as they look like orbs, they're orange and glowing like a fireball, and as they move, they're leaving a streak behind them. It's just crazy. Which also reminded me of 1902 here in Australia, and I'm going to read directly from a Trove article that I have kept in my notes for quite some time, and I'm just going to read what it says. Okay, so the article is headlined "Fireballs in Australia," and it says, Professor Gregory of Melbourne University was interviewed on Monday in regard to the cable message published in the Advertiser that day, indicating that Sir Norman Lockyer, the great astronomer, believed that the fireballs seen in Australia last week were of volcanic origin. Sir Norman Lockyer, remarked the professor, is one of the most eminent of living authorities on atmospheric electricity, and his opinion therefore is of the greatest weight. I do not for one moment think, however, that he intended to convey the opinion that the fireballs seen in Australia were of volcanic origin. What he no doubt meant to say was that the fireballs seen at Mount Pelee were of the same nature of those seen in Australia, though produced by different causes. The fireballs produced by volcanic action were the result of dust being driven through the air with such force as to cause friction between the particles, the friction then producing electricity, and the electricity expressing itself in globular form. The fireballs, which were observed during the great dust storm in Victoria and elsewhere last week, were produced by the same mechanical action, with the exception that it was not volcanic but cyclonic. Cyclonic energy that set the dust in motion. There was no doubt a good deal of organic matter in the dust which found its way into Melbourne, and that of course would readily take fire. This is what they wrote in 1902. The difference between now and then is that we have a lot of video footage of what we're seeing. People are recording things, where back then there was only papers recording reports and scientific opinions. And I'll read another article which explains some very odd occurrences in relation to those fireballs in Australia. The article reads that Governor Astronomer H.C. Russell mentions fireballs causing consternation as well as damage. This is evidently an electrical storm from which sparks of electrical light make their appearance in many different places. Nothing is said as to their extent or size, as they are of rare occurrence. They are most frequently reported from sea, where they are observed hovering over top masts and yards of vessels in stormy weather. They travel along the ground and are readily attracted by anything which has metallic connection with the earth. A tank keeper reported having seen a fireball run along just above and level with the ground, then extinguish itself in a waterhole. Another account was observed to travel 200 yards, then travel right through a building and out a window without causing damage. Another was observed by men seated in a room where a fireball came down the chimney. The dazzling, brilliant visitor hovered near the floor, rolling slowly around the room, passing between chairs as though a thing of reason. Then it was drawn up the chimney again, moments before bursting over the house with a terrific crash. So these objects surely don't sound like fireballs. Some are flying at terrific speeds, but many of them are just cruising around. And for a fireball to be able to come down a chimney and move around a room and in between chairs and then fly out of a house, it defies physics. So, but Inauguration Day is only a week away, so Trump vows to shed light on these mystery drones within days of becoming president, so we'll just have to wait to see what he says, and it will be interesting.
It kind of disappeared very suddenly. Do you have any idea whatever happened to the drones?
What happened to drones?
Well, you said that you knew you thought the government knew what was happening with these drones over New Jersey. There were some by Bedminster.
I don't know. They're over Bedminster a lot, so I can imagine. I'm going to give you a report on drones about one day into the administration, because I think it's ridiculous that they're not telling you about what's going on with the drones. And it's not only with me. Glenn was telling me today that in Virginia they have drones all over the place too, and nobody's reporting it. I don't know why they're not. Do you want to say something about that?
Just one quick comment, which is we are home to the largest naval base in the world in Quantico, and we house a lot of the SEAL teams and have a huge national security infrastructure. And now for 2 years running, we have had drone incursion over secure airspace, and we still don't know why. And I think that's absolutely unacceptable. And I think President Trump and the new leadership coming in, I think, will work diligently to understand who's behind this and what we do in order to stop the digital surveillance of all of our secure infrastructure.
Is it dangerous?
Well, I can tell you this. While we were dealing with a terrorist attack in New Orleans, we had drones being flown over our nuclear reactors in Louisiana. And we brought that attention to the FAA. We've been asking the FAA to give these states the ability to mitigate these drones, and it's sitting on some bureaucrat's desk. And that's real.
Nobody knows. They don't want to talk about it. Go ahead, Governor, you're going to say?
I was just going to say we have drones in Wyoming flying over our infrastructure as well. And it's incredibly frustrating that we not only have no way of knowing what it is, but nobody knows how to deal with them.
They don't want to talk about it, and nobody knows why. They don't want to talk about it. That could be us sending drones. I hope that's the case, us doing it and doing research, and maybe they don't want to talk about it from that standpoint. I hope it's not an enemy, but we're going to find out on the 21st, the day after. You have to give me a little time for the inauguration, but shortly thereafter, we'll give you a report on it. We'll tell you exactly what it is. They know, and it's very strange that they aren't talking about it.
So yeah, the year has already started off crazy enough. So year ended crazy last year. The whole year last year was crazy. But I just want to share some of those things that I found. And amongst all the craziness and madness, I hope things are going well for you. And I hope to catch you on the next one.